Welcome to Caribbean Wellness. I'm Dennise Demming. We focus on emotional, psychological, and social well being. Join us for our conversations on well being and mental health.
I am a clinical psychologist in practice in Trinidad for just over 10 years. In my clinical work, I really do focus on trauma and helping everyone along this mental wellness spectrum.
Your focus, you said, is on trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine that there is a lot to be discussed at this stage, isn't there?
A lot. Yeah. And definitely it's this space of understanding that trauma isn't only these big things that we define as, traumatic events, car accidents, natural disasters, but trauma looks different for everyone. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations about mental wellness. Yeah.
Yes. And to what extent are you concerned about mental wellness in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, so naturally, as a clinical psychologist, I'm very attuned to individuals' space along this mental wellness spectrum. Our mental and psychological health affects every single area of our lives, from our interpersonal relationships, physical health, and even our occupational functioning. So I think it's vital to be able to raise awareness and have conversations about what mental wellness is. Because a lot of times when people talk about mental wellness, you think about it as this black and white thing, as it's either you're mentally good or, as Trinidadians like to say, you're mad. Yeah, but it's really important to understand that there's so many shades of gray in between, and it's vital for us to learn how to recognize our own shifts along that continuum and the personal steps that we need to take to make sure that we're maintaining our own mental health as well.
You said something that's interesting, that Trinidadians have you as either you're well or you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a taboo issue that most of us don't want to be described as mad. You have any comments on that?
Yeah, it's this idea that all of us throughout different phases in our lives, we go through things that are difficult. We struggle. We need external support sometimes. And this black and white view of you're either healthy or you're mad really limits people's access or people's belief that they can have access to help. So that's why these discussions are so important. So important to recognize that just because you're struggling emotionally, just because you're not in your where is your settled state, it doesn't mean that you're mad. It just means that you're shifting along that continuum, and you need to have this understanding of, what do I need to do for myself to get to a better place? Can I do it on my own? Do I need support from friends? Do I need support from a professional? Yeah.
So, what can be done to normalize mental wellness in the business context? Because I'm not sure about the extent to which business organizations accept that it's a continuum and that people need help. So, what can be done?
Yeah. So I think one of the most common challenges that we see in business spaces and in the business community is sometimes there's this blurred recognition that there's a human behind the job. Yeah, that there's a human behind this job title and these roles and these functionings. And that as humans, you come with your own history. You come with your own life challenges, your own insecurities, your own family structures and environments, whatever it is that they look like. And I think that it's important for businesses to start to recognize that humanity in their employees. Yeah, so that the employees could feel recognized and heard and valued as a person. And there's so much room for the creation of these healthy environments, because what I know as a psychologist is when a person feels heard and valued and all of those wonderful things, then their productivity is going to increase. Then their attitude toward coming to work is going to be better. And you get to create a culture, an environment at work that is one that is efficient and one that is healthy. Yeah.
You know, the comment you just made for me is interesting because I worked a few years ago in a factory environment, and the comment that was made was leave your issues by the gate. How realistic is this as an approach?
It's not. It's not. Your issues do not have an on and off switch. Is that your life is you and you are coming to work? Yes, there is space for you to be able to not let your life challenges and circumstances affect your job and your productivity. But you can't leave it by the door. And if there's this recognition that some people are having a hard time with making that shift from individual to employee, then we know that this person may need a little bit more support. Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for employers to ensure that their employees remain mentally well and remain balanced and remain productive?
Yeah, it's this understanding that, you know, mental wellness activities shouldn't be confined to just like this one-off event or this every quarter kind of activity that we do together, but they're really creation of programs that are an ingrained part of your work culture. Yeah, so having provisions, for example, with employee assistant programs for those who are struggling to just, you know, leave their issues at the door, and normalizing that use of support, not necessarily stigmatizing persons who are struggling, but finding out, you know, why they're struggling. If it is that they don't want to talk to you as their manager, their superior, figuring out spaces where they can get that extra support where needed, and then giving them that freedom and that space to be able to access those kind of support services too.
What is one thing that we can all do to improve our mental wellness?
I really do believe that your mental wellness starts with your individual space. So just taking that space in that moment to really critically think to yourself, am I okay? Having those check-ins and those times where you realize, okay, today I'm struggling a little bit more, and approaching that with kindness, not approaching that with, well, yesterday was so easy. What's wrong with me here? Why can't I do this today? You know, but really approaching it from a space of kindness to yourself. And then as we're extending it outward to others, recognizing the fact that others are dealing with their own things in life, is that they are struggling in whatever way that they're struggling. So always just starting from this space of kindness to yourself, starting with a place of kindness with others, and understanding that it's just this continuum. You know, just because you're struggling, it doesn't mean you're mad. Yeah.
That's an excellent comment. And I just thought of what is our responsibility to our children and to young people to help them retain that space of kindness and loving themselves?
Yeah. Oh gosh, for our young people, I think that helping them to be able to label and understand what their feelings are. Yeah, because all too often I realize that people, when they're talking about their feelings, you only have happy, sad, angry, you know, and it's really this small range of emotions that people know how to define, but just expanding that vocabulary. Even with our younger kids, you help them to label their feelings. Oh, you look like if you're frustrated right now. What are some things that you can use that you might need for help? And just really expanding our way of speaking about our feelings. There's so many shades of gray, so many nuances within feelings. You know, you have excited, you have relaxed, you have so many things to choose from. So it's really starting from that space of being able to label and understand feelings and communicating how we can shift those feelings as well.
And as we bring this interview to a close, Denise, what are your thoughts? What would you like to share with us?
Oh gosh, I just think that if it's one thing that we take home from our conversation today, is that mental wellness is something that is always changing, always shifting throughout the day, throughout your life. And it's important to be able to start paying attention to those shifts and knowing that you do have some sort of control and space in managing those feelings.
And on that note, that we all have some space and control in managing our feelings, on that note, we bring this interview to a wrap. Caribbean Wellness, a space to talk about our well-being and mental health. Like and share our editions. Until next time, be safe.